It wasn't a US baby formula shortage that led our guest to develop a plant based milk for babies and toddlers. She was battling postpartum depression and struggling to breastfeed her newborn, and traditional formula caused even more problems. You're going to love hearing how this mom of four created a coconut milk based recipe and how she's bringing it to market. Oh boy, it's Fab Female Founder Friday on the Startup Life Live show. Let's glow, everyone, and dance. Hello and welcome to the Startup Life Live show. I'm your host, Andy Lyons, 4 times founder and startup champion to founders around the world. And after raising 4 businesses of my own, I've got a really good idea of what you all are crawling through every single day. Those high levels of uncertainty, the joys of figuring it out, and the pain of when you pull on a thread and nothing happens. Oh my gosh. I bet some of you are even sleeping like newborns every night, waking up every 2 hours crying, right? I mean, this journey can really tap into every part of our being. So that's why I'm so grateful that you carved out time to tune in and up your founder game, because we learn so much from these startup stories, from other founders. You feel less alone and you get some, what? Oh my gosh, I better go try that. Those kind of aha moments when you hear their founder stories and their founder journeys. So I'm grateful that you're here, because I do know this to be true. As you up your game, as you, the founder, gets better at what you're doing, your business gets better. And there's no class that you're going to take on how to be a founder. That's like parenting. You can read all the books and learn how to change diapers, but until you are in the role of holding that baby and making sure they're fed and bathed and all of that, there's no preparation. It's the same thing with Founder Journey. We are live right now on LinkedIn, Facebook, YouTube, and Twitter. So if you could give it a like wherever you are, I would really appreciate it. It helps it go out into the universe and reach more founders in the world. And if you are on YouTube and you have not done so already, please click on the subscribe button and the notification. And please hop on over to the Startup Life Live meetup group and join the group, because here is where you're going to receive an alert whenever I post a new show, which is, the deep dive into who the guest is and their industry and what they're up to and what gems they're going to be bringing to the conversation, as well as an alert when I'm going to be going live that day. So I hope you can hop on over and join that. And the links will be in the show notes as well. I just want to say a big yoo-hoo to the live viewers. Honestly, it's so great to see you. Hi. And replay viewers, you, this is so great that you're here to hear our guest story today. And be sure to leave comments no matter where you are. And podcast listeners, I know that you're probably folding laundry, you're in the pickup line, you're somewhere where tuning in right now is a great way to up your founder game. So I'm grateful for your listens. Let me just share a few Andylicious announcements. It wouldn't be the Startup Life Live show if I didn't get a chance to promote everything Arlen Hamilton is doing at Arlen's Academy. She just posted a bunch of new things just this week. It's free and it's everything you need to know about launching a successful business all in one place. Arlen's Academy. Go there, please. And then we have this incredible group here in Boston called the Capital Network. And I love sharing the work that they're doing in the world. They have these great boot camps. And right now they're focused on helping founders, create a clear and enticing pitch deck for their fundraising process. And they're all about own your story. So, this is a great opportunity. Go check them out. Links are in the show notes, and use Andylicious at checkout to receive 50% off any of their programs. They're constantly filling the world in the startup ecosystem with everything you need to know to be a successful founder. And speaking of founders, Founder University, this is Jason Calacanis. And I got to tell you, he has this really great 12-week course for building an MVP and getting your first users, because you may have a great idea, but you're not sure how to build that minimum viable product. Hop on over to course.founder.university. Check it out. Here's the benefit from this particular program. It costs $750. But if you show up every week and you come up with your MVP at the end of the course, it's for free. I love that benefit. I think that is so, as we say here in Boston, it's wicked awesome. Hey, Brent Manuel, so happy to see you. Yes, you have a hand clapper. I will give you a hand clapper moment right here. Everybody who tunes in knows that Brent is always here reminding us to welcome diversity in your businesses, and disabled folks, right? As well as neuro, those folks that you don't necessarily see are disabled, but they're working through some challenges and physical challenges. So Brent, so happy that you always tune in from Ottawa, Canada. And congratulations for getting chosen for a scholarship for people with disabilities. Everybody, send the vibes to Brent. And Richard O is doing it for us. Brent Manuel, congratulations. Richard O, if you're, folks, if you need help launching your podcast, he's the man. And Mia is tuning in from New York City. And folks, whenever Mia pops her head in and joins the crowd here live, I've got to share her phenomenal podcast called Shit We Don't Talk About with Mia Voss. Visit shitwedon'ttalkaboutpodcast.com to hear conversations as only Mia can bring them to you. Those topics that people want to talk about, but they're not sure how to have those difficult conversations. Mia does it beautifully. All right, let me introduce this guest. I met April in I think it was just some kind of mixed group. I'm not sure. We'll have to talk about that. But this phenomenal female founder is rocking it out of the boat. 3 years ago, April was battling postpartum depression and struggling to breastfeed her newborn. Traditional formula caused more problems for her baby girl, including intestinal gas and skin reactions. And she was desperate for a good night's sleep and a happy baby, right? So she and her husband began researching ingredients and consulting with their pediatrician until they figured out a coconut milk-based formula for their daughter, free of soy, palm oil, gluten, and lactose. And soon after developing the recipe, they launched the Sure Company, focused on bringing a ready-made plant-based milk recipe to market that provides complete nutrition, quality, and convenience. Oh my gosh, let's bring April into the show and not take another second. Yay, April Kelly!
Oh my goodness. I am loving it. I love the energy as always, Andy.
Where are you hailing from today?
So I am coming from North Carolina.
Oh my gosh, that's great.
Yes.
Folks, be sure to let everybody know, like Mia said, she's in New York City. She's usually in Denver, but she's visiting a place that she lived for quite a while and going down memory lane. And Brent from Ottawa, Canada. So those of you who are live, let us know where you're coming in from. And April, I have to tell you, it's just so fascinating. Did we meet in maybe the Institute for Entrepreneurial Leadership? Is that where did we meet?
Where we met. We met
WOCON.
in WOCON. Yep.
Oh my gosh. So WOCON, everybody, I might still have their, so this is Eiffel. Let me just pull this up. They have a wonderful Women of Color conference group, right?
Yes.
Is that what it is?
Yep.
And, I still got Mia's things pulled up here. And they do phenomenal programs for women of color and really support entrepreneurs as well from any walk of life. And Absolutely. They did this thing we had, I think it was Kelly, the co-founder of Mixtros, on the show. So they use the Mixtros platform. So I always want to give a shout out to Mixtros, because if you're having an event and you want people to connect, that's how April and I connected. All right. Enough about me and all of that. I want to chat about you, because having been a former foodie founder, folks, you think, what's the big deal? You launch a food product. What's not, what's so hard? Hardest business in the world, in my opinion, to launch. So please talk about this story, because did you have any entrepreneurship in your life before you started to become an entrepreneur?
I love that question so much because it takes me back to my roots, Andy. And sometimes I do forget that part of the story. But before there was even any babies thought about, any formula thought about, I was a young little girl being babysat by my grandmother. And my grandmother would take me outside. She had this shed in her backyard where she made different types of furniture and upholstery. And her and my grandfather, they ran that business. And at the time, I didn't even realize that they were entrepreneurs. It took me becoming, an adult and then thinking back and reflecting on my upbringing to know that, wow, I was exposed to entrepreneurship very early on. They were farmers, they had a garden, and they truly were very loved in their community and very popular, if I might add. Everyone came to them when they wanted renovated upholstery or furniture. So they were my first example of what entrepreneurship looked like, honestly.
I love this. And so what they did is they planted the seed of possibility,
They did.
right?
They did. And my grandmother would always tell me, she's passed now, but she would always tell me, you're going to do great things. You're going to be great. And she said, you're going to get in trouble with those brown eyes. But yeah, she definitely planted those seeds very early on.
I love that. So now you're into birth and babies, right? And you're
No,
working, your husband's working outside the home, both of
yeah.
you, and you have your third precious treasure. Tell everybody what happened and how this led to you starting your business.
Absolutely. So, Andy, you touched on it a little bit in the introduction, but I have a total of four babies, and I have three girls, and finally that boy at the end. God bless my heart, my husband's heart, because oh my God, he waited for that boy. But so with the third baby girl, we brought her home from the hospital, and I just planned to do what I did with my older two kids, which was to bring her home, breastfeed her as long as I could, and just live happily ever after, right? And so a week and a half, 2 weeks in, when I was met with just these feelings that I wasn't able to truly articulate and explain, I was kind of thrown into this world of just what do I do? What's happening? What's going on? And so when I realized that postpartum had started to sink in with me, it was something that I really hadn't dealt with before. And so I was also at the time struggling to breastfeed my baby because she had a tongue tie. And so it was very excruciatingly painful. And then it was also the fact that my body was just not producing enough milk to satisfy her. And so that probably had a lot to
Yeah.
do with my mental
What
state
is
at the
what
time.
is tongue tie?
So tongue tie is where the frenulum, so that piece of tissue that connects the tongue to the bottom of your mouth, it comes up too far to the tip of your tongue. And
Okay.
so it could affect your speech later on in life if it's not corrected, but sometimes it does self-correct. And with our daughter, it did, but it also affects how they latch when
Right.
you're breastfeeding. And so that's what made it a lot more painful.
Oh, you kidding? Our son, I mean, my husband would put his baby finger in and out would come the bone. I'm telling you, he could
Listen,
suck paint off a wall.
listen.
It
And so
hurt. I
you
cried every time.
the pain of breastfeeding gone wrong is a pain like no other. I would say that it's up there with childbirth.
Yeah.
um,
Thank you for sharing that, but and I'm so sorry, especially after having two already, this
mhm.
postpartum was like probably like say what for you because you were planning to
Yeah,
have what you did with the first two.
so it came completely out of nowhere, and it took my husband coming in the living room one day. I was just sitting there. The baby was asleep. The house was clean. My other two kids were gone with their grandmother, and seemingly everything it looked to have been okay if you were just kind of looking from the outside looking
Right.
in. But he came in the living room, and then I noticed that he went back, and he came back in the living room, and I was sitting in the same spot, and he went away, and he came back a third time, and he said, "Are you okay?" And I broke down. I broke down.
Right.
And so again, it was a lot going on during that time. And so I was really in this place of desperation, like I need something to go right. Everything is seemingly not feeling right, not going right. My body's not working right. I need something to go right. So I just clung on to the little bit of sanity that I had left, which is what it felt like. And I said, you know what, we're going to supplement. Not something that I wanted to do or plan for, but
Yeah.
at this point, it's the best for us.
Yeah. And so you went to the handy dandy wherever you and pulled formula
Mhm.
off the shelf, probably
Yeah.
did a little research on what your favorite might be,
Mhm.
and you started with your precious treasure and what happened?
And so we started to immediately see that she was starting to have skin breakouts. She was starting to spit up. She just seemed more gassy, and that led to her being just frustrated and miserable, unsatisfied. And so that added to, everything else that was already going on at that time. And I was just like, I'm over it. Like there has to be something out there that's going to work. And so we really began to just dig into why is she having these breakouts? And is it something that's common, and have other moms experience this with their babies? What is in infant formula? Is it something that we can make on our own where we know all of the ingredients, they're natural and we trust them and they still provide that complete nutrition? And so in walking that out and really doing the research, I mean, Andy, we were going to the stores just to read the backs of infant formula labels. And to dissect exactly what does this 15-letter word mean,
Yeah.
And so after doing the research and doing some trial and error in our kitchen and consulting with our pediatrician, we came up with a recipe that in fact checked all of the boxes of what is supposed to be in an infant formula. And our baby did well on it. We fed it to her for the first year of her life. And so from there, that's kind of what sparked the very beginning of the formulation of Sure.
So let's talk about, how did you know? Because folks, you can have a recipe, okay, but whether it's scalable, all these other parts and pieces that we'll talk about later, but you had to figure out just for what your baby needed, okay, for the household, a recipe that was going to be fully nutritious. Where did you, I know you worked with your pediatrician. Where else did you find, and where did you get your plant-based materials just for the first year of your precious treasure's life?
Yeah. So honestly, I went to sites like the FDA website to do my research there. I dug into, again, just Googling the different ingredients that were in the infant formula. So just using a handy dandy internet and trusted resources and websites. But it really did stem from the FDA website. And then from there, I was able to do some other research into like blogs. But I really wanted to stick clear with the, more trusted sites, right? That really give the information that we need from a scientific and a health standpoint. So those are some of the sites that I use. And then in addition to that, because I had my pediatrician, I was able to bounce things off of him as well and to really show him, hey, this is what we came up with. What do you think? We started feeding it to our baby. She's doing well. And then we went to the grocery store. Honestly, we were able to find every single ingredient that we needed for our formula or our milk at the time. We found it from the grocery store, believe it or not. And I think, go ahead.
No, you go ahead.
And I was going to say, it's not anything that I would say anybody can just go to the grocery store and make an infant formula for their baby, because you do want to make sure that you arm yourself with the necessary information and education that you need to make sure that you're giving your baby something that is going to, promote growth and development and not hinder them in any other kind of way. So you definitely want to know what you're doing and you want to consult with the professionals, which is why we were so close with our pediatrician at the time. But what we did find is that when you are a mom, and it's something I truly believe, mom are the best problem solvers out there, because even if we are not an expert in that field, we do what we have to do to be able to piece the parts of the puzzle together to figure it out, to make the big picture. And that's what I did.
Oh my gosh. Folks, I'm going to have a moment here. Andy-licious. I'm going to have a stitch that on a pillow moment, folks, because moms are the best problem solvers. Let's do it. It is the truth, 100%. Oh my gosh. And speaking of moms, my understanding too is that you leveraged a mom community. That you had. Talk a little bit about that, because, it's that brain pool is so important.
So at some point, Andy, I felt like, I'm on an island. I have all of these babies. I'm trying to work. I'm trying to keep it all together. I don't want to, I'm trying to find myself, because I was in that space where I feel like I'd lost myself a little bit in just being a mom and serving everyone else. And so, I said, I'm going to create a space, a safe space where moms can show up authentically themselves with no superwoman cape on and just express how they feel and to get the support that they need, and for us to be able to champion one another. And so I started a platform called Modern Mom Fix, and it truly was just that, a safe space for us to talk about our wins and talk about our challenges and see how we can support one another in the process. And so when I came up with the milk for my baby, I did like I normally do. I went live on that platform. It was a Facebook community and still is. And I shared my story and I shared my challenges and I shared about the postpartum depression and I shared all of this research that we were doing about how can we create something in our own home that's healthy to give to our baby. And that particular video got the most engagement that any of the other videos on our page had. And so that is really what sealed the deal and what tickled the entrepreneurship in me. That was like, okay, now we're on to something. So let's start to piece this thing
We
together.
have solved a problem with our sort of one and done recipe for the home. And we'll talk a little bit more about how you scale that later. And other moms are cheering us on. They're saying, yes, this is something that we're looking for. So, okay, so you've got a market, from your own experience, which is plenty as a mom, then you went on to have a fourth. And so you understood that this could have legs. Okay, folks. So, right there, we're like, yay, she solved her baby's problem. She got, did the research, everything's pulled together. And now you want to bring it to market? What's the matter with you?
Right. How much crazier can I get,
So let's talk about that, because when you create a commercial ready product, folks, there's a lot of pesky details you got to nail. So you may have figured out the recipe for your home, but will that recipe be the same when you're making, in this case, gallons?
Exactly right.
And you have to find a place that's going to have that wonderful sterile environment to be making gallons. And then you've got to find all the suppliers for that. And then you got to do a lot of other things like nutritional label, packaging, everything. So you folks launching a SaaS company with an app, you go for it. That's wonderful. But boy, launching a product, especially in the food industry, let's talk about that. I want to dive into the details. So where did you begin? What was your first step?
So the first thing I'd done, I reached out to the SBTDC locally here in my area, and I'd learned about them previously.
What does that stand for? SB?
So that's
Small business?
Small Business Development and Technology. Something.
Yeah.
But Google it. It's free small business resources that pretty much I want to say it's a national.
It is. It's the SBDC, but they added the T for tech.
Right. Yep. So definitely look into that if you are an entrepreneur or aspiring entrepreneur, because that's where I started. I was able to match up with a counselor who's still with me today. And when I tell you the different contacts and opportunities that have come my way since connecting with her, oh my goodness, it's like having someone that's working for you and on your behalf for free.
Right.
Like you're not having to pay them.
And they have experience.
Yeah. And they have experience. So even the grant, the one and only grant that we've received so far that we've applied for, we were introduced to that grant and went through that process through the SBTDC. So great team. So I started to reach out to the resources like that, and they helped me to kind of pour out my ideas and strategize, and to begin to say, okay, this is what we do first and this is what we do next. And they were really a sounding board in the beginning because I had so many great ideas. And so it was just about really fine tuning, the idea to the point where it's like, okay, this is what we can do now. Right. Of course, we have the bigger picture in mind, but what can we do now? What goals can we set now? What steps can we take now with our budget, with our time that we have, right, with our resources to get the needle moving in the right direction?
Oh, that is so important on so many levels, folks, because you're very excited as a founder. Oh, I want to do this. And you've got your vision, but you have to back it up. And it's great when you have someone that says, rein all that enthusiasm in for a second, girlfriend, because we still have to do A, B, C, and D. And also, April, I imagine that when you started ticking off, like, okay, we did that, we strategized and we did that, and we took that tactic and we did that. Oh, folks, when you meet those small, tiny milestones, right, April?
The confidence it fuels you to continue to keep going. Because when you have your sight set so big, so early, you can get discouraged, right? Because you start to see that if you fall short of those goals and of those sites, you start to see that as failure. And it's not really failure. It's just that we did not set ourselves up for success. And so I've learned to do that earlier on, as opposed to having to fall while I'm trying to jump on this, big cliff. Instead, I prepare the steps, right? So that I can climb there instead of trying to take a big leap at, every single time. Now, I am a risk taker. I am, but I've learned, to kind of be more strategic about the risks that I do take.
Strategic, and we do things to mitigate those risks. Meaning, I'm going to do this, but I got to back up, or I can go left or right, or
Right.
shore that risk up in this certain way.
Exactly.
But folks, you have to jump. You have to take those risks because they inform you. You've heard other startup founder stories here where they had disasters that they turned around it because they were informed by that disaster.
Right.
So
Right.
April, I keep coming back to the scaling the recipe. How did you identify a co-manufacturer for you?
So again, going back to that tenacity, right? I just knew that this was something that I wanted to see through, and so I did not leave a rock unturned. And so I'm on Google. I'm utilizing my SBTDC resources. We are literally looking up every single manufacturer in our area or even out of the state, and we somehow came across the North Carolina Food and Innovation Lab. And I went to their site and I was able to learn that they specialize in plant-based products. And they're the ones who actually helped me to commercialize the formulation. So they helped me to go back and check all of the boxes and to make sure that our base recipe had what it needed to have in order to meet this requirements of the FDA, because we knew that at some point we want to get FDA approval. And so we want to be ahead of the ball by making sure that we already checked the boxes when they came to look for us and ask questions, right? So at this point, this is why I do technically refer to our product as a plant-based milk until we get that FDA approval to be then called an infant formula. But that is what we're working towards.
Thank you for that clarification. Absolutely. I used formula, folks, just as a way to get you thinking about it in that regard, but it is not formula yet. And that's so important. Thank you for that. And may I just say, what a gift that you found right in your state.
Right in our state.
A place that says, oh, not only can we help you at the Innovation Lab, but we actually specialize in plant-based recipes. What?
Right.
Those are those moments like, thank you, God.
Right. Absolutely. And that's how I felt. I felt so just encouraged by being able to come across that, because this is very new to me. This space is very new to me, being in the food space. I've helped my husband on the back end of his multimedia business. And then my daughters, they've had hobbies that they've kind of merged into their own little businesses. And so I've been on the back end of that. So I knew kind of what the process and what to expect. But from the food perspective, and like you said, food and bev, it's a different kind of beast.
Hey, folks, as I've often said, I will never do anything with a shelf life again.
Oh, man.
That's hard. It's hard. So then let's talk about the nutritional label, because we have to have nutritional labels, folks. You don't just put a pretty package label, designed label on your product. You got to talk about what's in it and what it represents. So who did you use for that? Did the Innovation Lab help you with that as well?
So yes, they were the ones to do our initial nutritional label. In fact, we still have the rough draft copy of it here with us now. We are still going through, because we did have to do a handoff from them because they weren't able, and we knew this going into it, to have the capacity to help us scale up. They were really to help us to really solidify our formulation and get it commercial ready. And then from there, we partnered with an actual co-packer to be able to scale up our product. And so they are still going to run some additional tests, and there might be some tweaks to the recipe. So the final label has not been completed yet, but we do have the rough draft of it, but there may be some small tweaks and changes.
And let's talk about packaging. Like, what are you going to put it into? What are your thoughts about how this product will be on the shelf? What will it look like?
So we are excited about the packaging because we truly try to keep our target audience in mind, specifically the parents and the moms and the dads who are going to be feeding these babies, even the grandparents in some instances. And so we wanted it to be cute and convenient and very functional. So if you're familiar with the pouches that applesauce sometimes comes in, the squeezable pouches, that is very similar to what our milk is going to come in. So not only is it ready-made, but it is also going to be pre-measured. And so it's going to take a lot of that hassle that sometimes comes along with, having to supplement or having to use an infant formula. It's going to take all of that away to make for a very seamless and smooth experience.
Thank you. Thank you. And will it be warmed up? Will it be right out of the pouch? How will that work?
So it'll be right out of the pouch. You can freeze it. You'll be able to warm it. Similar to like if moms are familiar with breastfeeding and the storage bags, right? It's very similar to that. So I'm
Oh my
excited about
gosh. Are you kidding, April? I want to congratulate you because I have, of course, an intimate experience of what it takes to bring a product to market in the food
that.
industry.
Mhm.
You have done a lot and
Thank you
gotten a
so
lot done. But you
much.
know what you did? I mean, yes, mothers are great problem solvers, of course, because they're solving a
Mhm.
problem every 10 minutes
Every
with their
day.
babies.
Mhm.
But also, you asked for help. And
Yep.
yes, I know women are great at asking for direction, but
Mhm.
at the same time, a lot of founders, gender is not involved in this, think they should know the answer. They should be able to figure out the answer. Talk a
Mhm.
little bit about what it was like to ask for help and
Mhm.
what that process was.
You gave me the chills just now because as much as this has been a professional and a very business oriented journey for me, it's also been very personal. And the personal side of that has caused me to really show my lack, for lack of better words, or show the areas where I need help and I need to ask for help and to put myself in those vulnerable places where it doesn't feel good, and it's something that we don't typically like to do. But that is where I have been able to be poured in the most and to really get the help that I needed when I put myself in those positions to be helped and when I open my mouth and I ask for help. And so this is probably I'm on a couple of different journeys, right? I'm on the journey of Sure and being a CEO, but I'm also on my personal journey, and somehow all of these things tie in. And so, right at the time where I was, coming to this awakening and this and knowing of like, April, you have to take better care of yourself, and by taking better care of yourself, you have to be able to and be willing to be helped. You have to ask for help, right? And so, in my business, it just so happened that the way that God and the universe or whatever you believe in, the way that it works is just so divine because
Mhm.
this journey is tying in some of the personal lessons that he's trying to teach me as well. You know what I'm saying? And so, anyway,
Oh, yeah, everybody knows how I feel about that. It's the best professional and personal development
yes,
program out there, hands down.
yes, yes. And so I've been reaching out to, other entrepreneurs who are far beyond where I am. And right now I'm even in a program called the USA WEC, so USA Women's and Entrepreneurial Cohort or Cooperative. And it started over in Africa, and now they're doing a program here. And this is their second year doing it here in the States. And so one of about 120 women chosen just in the US.
Yeah.
And so I was like, you know what? The way that I'm going to be able to maximize my experience here in this program is to reach out to every single woman here and support them and to champion and to see how I can be a resource. And then also ask how they can support me. Like,
Yes.
why not? This is what it's all about. This is the whole point of the program. And so I really encourage anyone who might be struggling with that superwoman facade or, having to try to beat all the things. Your strength lies in being able to know where and when to ask for help, where
Mm.
you need the help and when to ask for it. Because you literally, and we hear this all the time, but it somehow does not always sink in, but you can't pour from an empty cup. So you have to be willing to be poured into. You just have to.
Oh my gosh, I'm having an Andy-licious moment on that one, folks. April, you are so right.
Mm,
You cannot pour out from an empty cup, folks. And
mhm,
yes, we get that mythology of women, super women who can
mhm,
do everything
mhm.
in shoved in our faces all the time. And so
Right.
to become vulnerable and say, I don't know.
Mhm,
I co-hosted a monthly pitch event here in Boston for startups for 3 years. And I remember one woman with a food product, a whey product, WHEY, folks.
mhm,
Um, and when the judges asked her all these questions, she was very vulnerable and said, you know what? I don't know that yet.
mhm,
I need help in that area, in fact.
mhm,
Yeah, she won that night's event because they loved that she said, I don't know that. I haven't figured that one out yet.
mhm.
It's how you get doors opened for
Right.
you and wind in your sails, right, April?
Mhm. Yes, absolutely. Absolutely. 100%.
Hey, Ruth, speaking of Africa, from Nairobi, Kenya, my favorite. Oops, that's Brent right there. Sorry, Brent. Let me pull up Ruth here. There she is. Hi, Ruth. She's our community manager. She greets everyone who shows up during the show, but she
Yeah.
also asks great questions. But
Mhm.
Ruth, I love that cohort that April was talking about.
Mhm.
And but I don't think you're ready to hop in the market just yet. Is that right?
That is right. So we are
Yes.
preparing to launch later on this year. However, we do have a call that we're kind of hinging everything on, to be quite honest, with the FDA that'll happen next month. And so, depending on how that call goes, that'll determine our next steps. But we have
Yeah.
a couple of plans in place of how we're going to respond based on
Right.
what we get out of that call.
So let's talk about the numbers, or as we say here
Mhm.
in Boston, the numbers, because, this with food folks, seriously, what happens is when you're doing a recipe, you have to understand how much each ingredient goes into that container of, in
Mhm.
this case, baby milk. Okay.
Mhm.
And then you have to understand what volume you have to order that in. But to get down to a unit cost,
Mhm.
folks, you have to understand things. It's, labor, packaging, spillage, and waste that
Mhm.
happens to
Mhm.
get to that final. This is what it costs for us to get this product ready to go to market.
Mhm.
And then you've got to figure out how is it going to get there, i.e., the distributors. They've got their
Mhm.
hands out for a big
Oh
percentage.
yeah.
So you
Oh
got to know that. And then you've got to know what the retailer needs
yeah.
to
Mhm.
grab. So please
Mhm.
talk to us what you've learned about the numbers.
Oh my God, the numbers, the numbers, the numbers. The
I
numbers tend to be the part of the business that I'll speak for myself. I do not enjoy, but it's so necessary because if you get it right, then you are taking care of the health and the future of your business, right? And it's the thing that you want to get right the first time. You want to do everything in your power to be able to get as close to where the numbers should be as you possibly can. And I know that this is not my field of expertise or what I enjoy. So again, I utilized MBA students, finance students. I've utilized finance professionals, all of that to help to create our financial projections so that and then help me to understand too, because I didn't want to be, and I never want to be that CEO that's super high touch, in terms of like, not knowing the business on a granular level, and then I lose control of the important parts of the business. And to me, that includes the people. So the people that are going to support our customers, the people that work for us, and come on board and join us, and then also the health of the actual business, the numbers. And so that part for me has been a process, and I can still continue to stay open to learning more and more and more about it. But I definitely have a team helping me to understand, even from a manufacturing standpoint. I went out to the manufacturers, NC Phil in North Carolina Food and Innovation Lab, and was able to talk to them like, how much is everything costing? Where are we getting these products from? Even though they handle that, I still wanted to be involved because I needed to have that knowledge so that I can take it with me wherever I go next. You know what I mean?
Right.
And
Oh gosh, yeah.
yeah, it didn't just stop. Like if the relationship ended with North Carolina Food and Innovation Lab, then I'm just like having to start all the way over because I didn't learn it for myself.
That's right. Now you got into the weeds as you should. And folks, you don't have to crunch those numbers. You don't even have to know what they mean so much as how they affect your business. And
Right.
folks are out there, bookkeepers are out there,
Hmm.
number crunchers are out there, and there are programs that you can take online. You don't have to show up, you can do it virtually to
Hmm.
really nail down. And especially those of you with inventory, if you've got
Right.
products, you have to understand the flow of that coming in and the flow of it going out. But
Mhm.
most importantly, in the food industry, folks, distributors are going to take usually 30% for them to get pull up to the manufacturing facility, load up pallets, and distribute them off to Costco or wherever you hopefully will get your product into. And then Costco's got to get their share before they sell it to the customer. So
Mhm.
pricing becomes a challenge, right,
Yeah.
April?
Oh,
And
absolutely.
how are you working on that for your product and understanding the pricing?
So for one, we're not going after the big retailers out, out
Yeah.
the gate. We want to be able to have high touch with our customers, and we want to have a boutique type feel, right? But with mass appeal. So we want to create something that they want to come to us and ask for. And then we have the options of saying yay or nay. And part of that isn't because we feel so high and haughty that, you know, we're not good enough to be on, or they're not good enough for us to be on their shelves. It's not that at all. It's more so that we feel, especially with the industry and the target audience that we are serving, they're in a very sensitive space right now. So we really want to just be intimate with them in the way that we interact and the way that we serve them initially. So that's mainly the reason. But then the other reason is because we don't have that. We don't want to, we want to keep our profit margins healthy. And we don't want a lot biting into that because we need the money to come right back into the business so that we can grow. We are rolling out our business in a series of 3 phases. And so our first phase, we really are going to have to try to hold on to as much of that revenue as possible in order for us to reinvest it back and be able to roll out that second phase of the business successfully. And so that's just not something that is priority for us right now, but maybe down the line.
Oh, direct to consumer can work great. You can do
Absolutely.
that from promoting
Mhm.
on TikTok, on promoting on Instagram. You know, there's so many ways to reach customers where this is important to them. And the beauty of that, folks, is A, you get to keep your margin. So as April was saying, you get to have profit in your business, but
Mhm.
also you're going to get great feedback. You're going
Right.
to do a lot of customer testing and a lot of customer communication in a way that you get a finer tuning into the language that your customers want to hear while you experiment, while you figure out what's working, what's not working. I
Mhm.
went into food service, April, so I got
Mhm.
picked up by the big food service
Oh,
companies like
nice.
Compass and
Yeah.
Sodexo. I got certified as a woman-owned business. And what that did for me is I didn't have to even talk to anybody in grocery
Mhm.
because, and they don't, and because supplier diversity, they don't take the margins like they would
Mm.
normally have done with a regular company. I mean,
Oh,
it
nice.
helped me scale nationally in less than 2 years. And I
Mhm.
was on campus. I was on the corporate campuses. I was in hospitals and inns and hotels. And oh my gosh. And it was just a flurry
That's
of manufacturing without having to deal with, oh, you've got to do advertising campaigns because you're on the shelf at Whole
exactly.
Foods. And
Exactly.
you end up with 5 cents left over.
Exactly. So once you get on the shelves, you got to figure out how to get off the shelves and
That's right. Exactly. Move that product quick, quick.
right.
So, and now along the way, you and your husband, maybe you are financially independent. I don't know, but how have you funded your business? Have you been bootstrapping, pulling
Yeah.
out from the 401k, or,
Mhm.
you know,
So we've
there's
been
a,
bootstrapping.
yeah,
So and that was one of the reasons why earlier on I still work. And even now I've recently gone back to work so that I can continue to fund
yeah,
my vision without having to put my family in a compromising position financially.
that's right.
And so it's my investor job is what I call it. But yeah, so we bootstrap and we pour into it. As we have our income come in, we have a set of income that goes straight back into the business. And then there was something else you said. Oh, and then we've also received grants. So we had the one grant from, and I apologize, I think I said one grant only earlier, but it's 2. So we had
Yay.
a grant from NC Idea, which their applications are open right now. So if you are an entrepreneur and you are in North Carolina, I definitely encourage you to check them out. NC Idea, they have the micro grant, which is the 10K one. And that's the one that is for entrepreneurs who are in the very beginning stages of their business. You have a great idea and you can articulate it well. You've done your research and you just need the capital in order to get you to the next step. So that's what the micro grant is for. Then
And
they have
10,000 folks, don't
a
poo poo
10,000.
it, right?
Oh
10,000
yeah.
is a lot of money to prove your minimum viable product.
Yeah, and it's typically harder for those businesses who just have the idea, but they don't have the proof of concept yet to
Right.
get money. And so the 10K really goes a long way for us, an entrepreneur in that position. So
And
for
the beauty of the grant is that you're not giving up any equity, or you don't
full
owe
equity,
that money down the road if it's a convertible debt. So I love that.
exactly, and we use it to go towards our formulation process. So with NC Phil, we were able to pay for them to do everything we needed in order to get the formula or the milk commercialized. And then we also participated in an accelerator with our local university. And along with that came a $5,000 grant as well.
Yeah.
So once you complete the
I
program.
love that. And I love cohorts that give cash prizes,
Oh
just
yeah, me
saying.
too.
I
Me
mean,
too.
in kind, okay, that's lovely, but cash
Oh
is
yes.
what's going to fuel that business, folks. Oh, congratulations for nailing all of that down. So now you're at the point, and by the way, Adam Grant, who wrote the book Originals, and he's a statistician, and everybody turns to him online for everything. He made it very clear that those folks with a side hustle business have an actual over 30% greater chance of success than those that burn the bridges and hop on out. And it's because of what you said. You know, you're raising family, the kids have needs, especially if they're in sports or anything that requires
Absolutely.
lessons.
Absolutely.
And so you need to keep that roof over the head and the stress of the family at a minimum for
Mm-hmm.
your business. So if it takes a little longer, folks, it is okay.
Right.
And I do want to, you know, Brent is so good about asking this question, April. How diverse is your company? And that goes not just into race and ethnicity and religion and everything, but also into physical and neurodiversity.
Yeah, I love that question. And so we have not expanded our team just yet, Brent, but I will say to you that it is very important to me in particular to make sure that our brand and our business, it represents what the real world looks like. And so part of our, even just with our product, we want to go after the modern families, the unique family structures, because we understand that everyone is different and there's beauty in that. And there's also benefits and all kinds of advantages in the fact that we all are super unique and different that we could really use to leverage our business and to really impact the world at large because we have that representation, you know,
Yeah.
within our brand and what it looks like. And so you touched on something that's very personal to me because being a minority founder, right, I know all about the discrepancies and the different things that the
That's right.
all of those things that we sometimes face when we are different and we are unique and we are the minority. And so that is something that I am intentionally focusing on and to making sure that we continue to have that wrapped up in our mission as we grow.
Wonderful. Can you see Ruth's comment right here? I'd love for you to read that.
Yeah, your product will make motherhood easier for women who go through something similar to your experience. Keep going.
Yay.
But
Ruth, I think you have 3 babies, right? So, you know, and it brings me to this question, which is, you know, we hear this and certainly on Christy Pitt's phenomenal live stream, folks, called Moms Hard at Work or Moms at Work. It's
yeah,
on LinkedIn. She's always talking about how did these moms who were founding, you know, as I say, raising babies and businesses at the time
right.
figured it out, especially if you are in a relationship. And I'm going to ask this question, April, because I wrote a Medium post, I don't know, several years ago about, you know, when you're an entrepreneur, in your case, your husband, he's full on board, but many spouses, one of them is not an entrepreneur. And so what you're doing is very frightening to them. You know, how do you keep those conversations? How do you keep that relationship with open communication when founders, you know, you can get hyper focused. So if they're not
Yeah.
part of the solution, they can get out of the way, right? But you can't do that with your darling who loves you, you know, for who you be, not that you're a founder. April, would you talk about that and how you're juggling your marriage as well as your primary relationship as well as children?
I would say first and foremost that marriage, even without entrepreneurship, is not easy. Maintaining a family of, you know, different personalities, even though the majority of the family came from me, they still are very different, you know, and they have different ways of doing things and their personality changes. And it's a lot. It's a lot. And so when you add an entrepreneurship on top of that, you just have to be mindful and you have to be willing to create a lifestyle and a family rhythm that works for you. Because what I mean by that is at one point when me and my husband, we got married younger and we were going after this traditional, trying to live up to what a traditional marriage, what we were taught that it looked like. And it did not work for us. Okay. Because we are very non-traditional, very non-traditional. And so what we had to realize was that, first of all, it's okay to run our households in a way that works for us, even if that looks different from every other household around us.
Right.
Because at the end of the day, we're not living with those people. We're living with each other. And there's a certain type of lifestyle. There's a certain type of atmosphere that we want to set for our kids, for our marriage, for ourselves, right? And so we had to really dial in on what works for us because we both are entrepreneurs and he stepped out about 6 years ago and he's completely self-employed and has been ever since. And so what the conflict was for us was that there was never time. Or the time was, I'm not going to say there was never time. The time, we were dedicating our time and our attention to everything else but each other. Right. And
Right.
so we truly had to say, okay, even though my husband's so spontaneous, like he loves all spontaneity, all whatever. I was like, listen, I get it, but the way that our lives are set up, if we don't schedule it, it ain't happening. So we need to be able to schedule date night. We need to be able to schedule movie night or whatever else we need to do in order to keep our relationship healthy so that we make sure it gets done. And so it just took us being creative, Andy. It took us being creative, intentional, and willing, right, to say, first and foremost, there's a problem. If we want to live this certain life, if we want to have our goals and go after these certain things, what is that going to look like, from a relational and family standpoint? And how can we make sure that the things that are the most important are not neglected?
Thank you. And that's going to bring up my founder journey right here, folks. We got to do a really big clap for that. Remember where I put it. Here it is. That is just such brilliant advice. I love the rhythm and flow for your household, understanding what that looks like and scheduling time. Folks, you're no longer in getting whisked off and those
Right.
wonderful romantic moments. You need to create the romance.
Right.
I've been with my darling man for 37 years and we've had a lot of businesses together. Oh my God. We've lost a lot of things together, but we never lost each other, folks. That's because you make that commitment and it's not easy, but I love that advice, April, so much. Thank you for sharing that. So as you're pulling everything together and you're going to be launching over the next maybe 2 months to 5, there's a window happening. How are you going to measure success? And I always ask this because so often, as you said, you didn't want to compare your household rhythms to somebody else's. It's the same thing with our businesses, folks. Our businesses, while we're serving them, they really are here to serve us as well. And so that success component, I mean, some of you are into like creating the zebra unicorn world domination, but boy, it's okay, folks, if you want to keep it simple. Where is your success for you, April, and what does that look like?
I tend to look at success in a couple of different ways, from a more personal perspective and then a more practical, right? And so from the practical, I have goals that I want to meet and I tend to be super ambitious and very competitive. I've toned it down a bit, but I do have goals and milestones that I want to reach. So of course, I'm measuring my progress by those milestones and those goals. And have I been able to achieve those goals? And if not, where did I fall? How far off was I? So that's one indicator of my success. But then the other indicator is my self-fulfillment first, before family, before anything else, my self-fulfillment, because so often my voice gets lost because I'm wanting to make sure everyone else's voice is happy and they're cheerful and they're, you know what I'm saying? In a great as a mom, as a wife, and even just outside of my household. And so I've gotten out of that and I'm like, am I fulfilled in what I'm doing? Am I fulfilled? Even after, and at this level, because there are millions and hopefully billions to be made, later on down the road in store for me. But I want to get into the practice now of that self-fulfillment because I don't want to be rich and miserable.
Right.
Be, successful from a worldly standpoint and alone, and so part of that self-fulfilling is like, what I'm doing making me happy? Do I feel like I'm making an impact? Is it hitting all of those hot buttons for me personally? And then also, am I able to enjoy the parts of life that contribute to my joy, my happiness? So my family, am I able to still enjoy that? Am I able to still enjoy a drink with my girlfriends? Am I able to still enjoy quiet time alone, And so and I know there's ebbs and flows, right? So it's not always going to look the same. Some buckets might be a little fuller than others. But overall, when I step back and look at my self-fulfillment and my success, I want to see that I'm making progress in the right direction. And that direction is really pointed towards my overall joy and self-fulfillment and happiness.
See, I love that. And that's what equality is all about, everyone, is that the woman can also say, yes, but I am following that wonderful advice. take the oxygen, mom, first, so
Mm-hmm.
that you can have some oxygen to
Mm-hmm.
give to your babies, to your darling partner, to your community, to your friendships that are important. And
Mm-hmm.
folks, that's why sometimes this push to get your business scaled really fast and do everything really fast, it will take a toll on you if you don't set it up for a rhythm that's right for who you are at this time in your life.
Right. And I want to add, Andy, I cannot get off this interview without adding it's the authenticity for me. It's being able to be free to be myself and to show up as her every single day. You know what I mean? Every single day, whatever that looks like. And I say that because for so long, I was just a mask of a person and just trying to conform or to do what I could to keep the peace or to blend in. And now I'm creating something where I have more creative control. And not even just that, but I'm able to just be authentic,
Yeah.
right? Just be able to show up and trust that the people who I'm here to serve, they'll find me or I'll find them, one or the other.
One, take that in, everyone, especially if you're in digital marketing. People who need you will find you.
Yes, yes.
That's so good. Everything that you're saying is so important, April,
Mhm.
for this incredible journey that you're on, that other founders are on right now. And especially moms, really take that in. Don't take the burnt toast. There is a book
Yeah.
about that, by the way. Take what's rightfully yours, and then
Right.
everybody else can go ahead and
Right. It's
Thank
true.
you. Oh, that's so wonderful. And given that today, which is August 2022, is Women's Equality Day, I want to
Mhm.
thank all those women who came before us, who
Yes.
paved the way so that April can be more fully expressed, that I can be at my age and stage. See that sign behind me? I'm on Route 66, folks. I can
Mhm.
be here on live video talking to all of you, sharing these wonderful founder stories. So we have women who have paved the way, and we're paving the way. April is paving the way and giving great, wonderful advice for women to remember that this is about your self fulfillment. It's not about the quote sacrifice that women are often
Mhm.
put into a position. You
Mhm.
have a voice, be you. And that's the beauty of entrepreneurship, is that you
Yes.
get to be you. So when you are struggling with mindset challenges, because maybe, one kid got in trouble at school, or one kid got hurt on the playground, or another one is, off and running, whatever the different challenges from being a parent as well as a founder bring you, what mindset hack works the best for you, April, in shifting into out of why bother? What am I doing? This is awful too.
Mhm.
Okay, no, we got this.
Yeah. The one I read a book really recently, Believe It by Jamie Kern Lima. And she is the CEO and founder of It's Cosmetics. And when I tell you, every page of that book is great. So definitely go read it. But she had a saying in there. She said, "Know your why and fly, girl, fly." And so that truly is what grounds me. It's knowing my why, and my why is multi-layered. um so it's not just a one thing for me, because it's partly that I want to create a lifestyle for myself that I can be proud of, and for my family, and generational wealth. And I did not come from a great upbringing, right? And to be able to create just something that my family can be proud of, it's just so many different levels to that. But I go back to my why. And I live, like I said, in North Carolina. And to free my mind sometimes from being just bogged down with all of the things, I just drive out to the countryside. So I have a place, my special place, right? And I just drive out there, and I just seeing all the open land and the trees, and just, being in that space. It almost allows me to physically drop off what I'm carrying, in a sense,
Yeah.
and then go back and pick up where I left off, right? And so I do a lot of just mindfulness and quiet time, and brain dumps. I remind myself of why I'm doing this, like when I'm rushing out the door trying to get the kiddos all to 4 different places on time, and somebody drops the cereal, right as we're going out the door. And I'm like, oh my goodness.
Everything comes to a stop. There's no getting out of the door at a
Everything to a
specific
stop.
time.
But I tend to take life a little less serious now. Like I used to be very rigid and very like, but now I laugh at a lot. I'm very patient. I'm very flexible. I can adapt, to things on a whim. And that's because, for one, as an entrepreneur, you have to. As a parent, you
Yeah.
have to. So naturally, I'm being pruned, just just from being a mom, right?
Yeah.
But those are some of the things that really truly keep me grounded. It keep me centered. My faith, it keeps me centered. And I like to stick around the people who knew me from back when, right? They knew me from little old me, and I can have a conversation about, just when I was growing up and did something silly, an embarrassing moment. And it just really just brings things full circle. And like I
Yeah.
said, it keeps my why on the top of mind.
And I just want to say, you're in the car alone when you go out to the countryside for your quiet time.
Yes.
Moms, right? Sometimes you just stay in the driveway in the car just to be alone, right?
Yeah, yeah, right out to the countryside alone. And then, you know what, Andy, there are times I even take my kiddos and just
Yeah.
kind of allow them to feel that too. And as
Yeah.
they're feeling it, there's certain things that they might just be playing in the field or running around, because my husband's mom, she lives out in like the countryside too. So we can even go out there and still be a good distance from one another and have that peace. But even
Yes.
just seeing them interact, it's just the different moments that you find. And it might not be the same as mine. Yours might be reading a book, yours might be exercising or going to the beach. But whatever that is that allows you to feel like you can let down that load, even if for a moment, and then pick it back up later after you've gotten what you needed. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah, oh
That
gosh, yeah. No, and that's, know thyself, everybody.
yeah.
That self-awareness is so important. What you need to fill yourself back up and get back at it again is key. You cannot work 24/7, 365.
You can't.
And I'm going to have the link to the book Believe It in the show notes, folks. So just whether it's podcast or video on YouTube, where this show gets archived, I'll have that link in there for you, because that sounds wonderful. Know your why and fly, fly, fly.
Yes.
Yes. Oh my gosh. So what hard thing are you working on right now that the Startup Life Live community could add wind to your sales or open doors? You are really good at representing what asking for help looks like. So let us know.
So we currently have a live crowdfunding campaign going on the WeFunder platform. So if you take a hop over there, it's www.wefunder.com/sure, SURE. And you can read all about our different milestones and our highlights and what we've been able to do over the course of the last 3.5 years, creating this brand, creating this product. And as we're preparing to launch, we would like to give everyday people the opportunity to become angel investors for as little as $100, meaning you can invest as little as $100 into our company and actually have future equity in our business. So a share of our business.
Yeah, you'd be an owner.
Yeah, that's part of our mission. And we're making history. We truly believe we are making history in the making, and we want you to be a part of that.
Absolutely, folks. You know what it costs to go have dinner, right? Stay home and eat some spaghetti and send $100 over and invest in Sure. I'll have the link in the show notes. The beauty of these equity crowdfunding campaigns, folks, is that those of us who, are fine, but we're not in the approved investor
Right.
status,
Mhm.
we can participate in these. I do it all the time. I can't think of anything else I'd rather do with my money. $100
Mhm.
toward April or other
Mhm.
companies. It
Mhm.
just, you are an owner, like Warren Buffett talks about all the time.
Mhm.
And
Yeah.
you don't know, it could be 5 years and all of a sudden you're getting back a lot more than that $100, right?
Right.
So, and at the same time, you're adding wind to this person's sales, which is so
Mhm.
important.
Yeah.
April, thank you, thank you, thank you for coming on the show, sharing this remarkable journey there,
Mhm.
especially for food founders out there who are going to see how you figured it out. It's going to add wind to their sales, and you will be the gift that keeps on giving for years to come. I just know
Thank
that.
you. I received that.
Any last words before I pop you into the green room and I'll wrap up the show?
Well, thank you, Andy. I can't go away without saying thank you for having me and allow me to come on your platform and to share my story. I truly appreciate any and every time that someone allows me to do that. So thank you so
Oh,
much.
I am cheering wildly for you, April. You are extraordinary. I have no doubt that you will figure it out. And I know that this is meeting your needs by being difficult and challenging and meaty and, high
Mhm.
enough bar for you to reach, because you
Yeah.
clearly need that as
Mhm.
the woman that you are, but in
Mhm.
all your transparency and in all your authenticity as well, because you're able to show up, as you said, as her and honor her,
Yes.
for her presence and gift in the world. So excited. Thank
Mhm.
you for joining me. I'm going to pop you in the green room and wrap the show up.
Bye, guys.
Okay. Oh my gosh, we learned so much from April today, right? I mean, folks, I know I say this all the time, but there's nothing like the food industry. And also, there's nothing like founder peer support. So you may be launching something completely different, but you got advice from April today that I know that you can add to your founder journey, whether it's, managing the numbers or, the mindset hacks, etc. April shared so much great advice and insights. And so let's talk about who's going to be on the show coming up on Tuesday, August 30th. We're chatting with seasoned venture capitalist Courtney McCrae, and she's the co-founder and managing partner of Recast Capital, where they believe that emerging managers of venture funds, particularly those with diverse partnerships, represent both an underserved market and overlooked business opportunity. And this team, the Recast team, is empowering the next generation of venture capitalists. And I'm so excited to learn more about their endeavor, because, folks, right now, it's a meritocracy out there if you're trying to get money from venture capital, and it tends to go to white males. You know that, I know that. And by funding and training emerging venture capital funds that are diverse, that are women, Black, Latino, Asian, you know what? You're going to get money, because all of a sudden they're going to see you in that category and understand that you can do it too. So I'm excited to talk to her. And how do you know whenever I post a new show, you're over here joining me at the Startup Life Live meetup group? Come on over. You'll get an alert whenever I post a new show, so you can find out who's joining us and chatting with us. And Richard O, coming from you, the extremely talented and extraordinary podcast producer. Thank you for the claps. I really appreciate that. And I really appreciate you. Thank you, founders, for tuning in and listening to the startup stories here at Startup Life Live. I appreciate your presence, and I am cheering wildly for you with your endeavors, because remember, you never, ever lose. You only win when you launch a business. You're going to come away with a great idea for something next if your business doesn't work out the first, second, or third time, or you're going to take that knowledge and bring it to your next gig. So remember, just do it. You're not going to lose. Until next time, I'm wishing you a delicious day everywhere you go. Mwah! And let's dance again.